Hello and welcome to A Sound Constitution here on CHLY 101.7 FM, a show where we focus on health topics that are important to our community. This year, our team is made up of 7 third-year VIU nursing students. Our goal is to demystify health issues and address common misconceptions by sharing evidence-informed information from a variety of reliable sources. All information provided in our show will be available on our show notes through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and our Spotify pages. We want to remind our listeners that information presented in this show is for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. If you have any questions or concerns about what's being discussed, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or Spotify at A Sound Constitution 101.7 FM or email us at asoundconstitution@gmail.com.
We would like to start our show by acknowledging that we are on the unceded territory of the Nanaimo people, with a broadcasting range that overlaps the Quw'utsun and the Slayman territories. This acknowledgement is done with gratitude to the Nanaimo people and with intention to increase awareness about truth and reconciliation processes and efforts on Vancouver Island. Additional information and resources surrounding reconciliation, protocol, and land acknowledgements can be found in our show notes.
Oh, hello there. This is Alexis. Poppy and I were just munching on some cabbage. Her goat mother never told her to chew with her mouth closed. When you look at your face in the mirror, do you look at your ears? Yeah, I don't either. Welcome to A Sound Constitution and our episode, The Decibel Diaries, an irresistible episode on auditory health. Becca, Ethan, Jessie Anna, and I are going to bring you on a deep dive into ear health, but not with a Q-tip, of course, although we will talk about that, too. We will briefly go over the anatomy of the ear and talk about decibels, before speaking with Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology. We will also compare and contrast different types of headphones with regard to ear health, and uncover some surprises along the way. This is a diary, after all. All the resources mentioned in our show will be found in our show notes. Without further ado, let's first tune our ears to Jessie Anna for a brief overview of these specialized organs.
Today we're diving into something we use every single day but probably don't think much about, our ears. Specifically, I'm going to walk you through the anatomy and physiology of the ear, basically how we hear, using simple, everyday language. Don't worry, I'm not giving you a complicated science lecture, I promise. We'll break it down into 3 parts, the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. And then we'll connect it all to something super important, how we measure sound, and what actually counts as too loud. Alright, let's get into it. First off, we have the outer ear. We can think of this as a sound collector. This is the part of the ear we can actually see, the outer ear. This includes the pinna, the soft, visible part on the outside of your head, and the ear canal. Think of your outer ear like a satellite dish, or a funnel. Its job is to catch sound waves from the environment and direct them inward. And fun fact, the shape of your pinna actually helps you figure out where sound is coming from. It slightly changes how sound enters your ear depending on the direction, which helps your brain to locate those sounds. Once sound is collected, it travels down the ear canal. The canal also helps to amplify certain sound frequencies naturally, especially the ones important for speech. Another important role of the outer ear is protection. Your ear canal has tiny hairs and produces earwax, which might seem annoying, but it actually traps dust, bacteria, and debris so it doesn't reach deeper structures. So overall, the outer ear collects sound, helps with direction, and protects the inner parts of your ear. Next up is the middle ear. This is where things get a little bit more technical. At the end of your ear canal is the eardrum, or tympanic membrane. When sound waves hit it, it vibrates, kind of like a drum. Behind the eardrum are 3 tiny bones called the ossicles: the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. These bones are incredibly small. Actually, they're the smallest ones in our entire body, but they play a huge role. Their job is to amplify sound vibrations so that they're strong enough to move fluid in the inner ear. Without this amplification, sound wouldn't transfer very well from air into the fluid-filled inner ear. It would be too weak. There's also a really important structure here called the eustachian tube. This tube connects your middle ear to the back of your throat, and its job is to equalize pressure. So if you ever felt your ears pop on a plane or while driving up a mountain, that's your eustachian tube at work, balancing pressure so your eardrum can vibrate properly. If pressure isn't equal, hearing can feel muffled, so this system is more important than we usually realize. And now for the most fascinating part, the inner ear. This is where those vibrations finally get turned into something your brain understands. The main structure for hearing is the cochlea, which looks like a tiny snail shell. Inside, it's filled with fluid and lined with thousands of microscopic hair cells. When vibrations enter, they create waves in the fluid, which bend the hair cells. Different parts of the cochlea respond to different pitches. So high-pitched sounds affect one area, while low-pitched sounds affect another. That's how we can tell the difference between, say, a whisper and a bass-heavy song. When those hair cells bend, they convert movement into electrical signals. Those signals travel through the auditory nerve to your brain, and that's when you actually hear sound. But here's something people don't always realize. The inner ear also controls your balance. Structures called the semicircular canals direct movement and head position. They help you stay upright, walk straight, and not fall over when you turn your head quickly. So your inner ear is doing double duty. It's not only helping you hear, but it's also helping you stay balanced. So now that we know how the ear works, let's talk about something really important: how loud sound is and how we measure it. Because all of those delicate structures, especially those tiny hair cells, can be damaged by sound that's too loud. Sound is measured in something called decibels, or dBA. Decibels tell us how loud a sound is, but it's not a simple scale. It's actually logarithmic, which means a small increase in number equals a big increase in loudness. So every increase of about 10 decibels means the sound is roughly 10 times more intense. That's why going from 60 to 70 decibels is a much bigger jump than it sounds. Here are some common sounds to help put that into perspective. A whisper is about 30 decibels. Normal conversation is around 60. And Poppy's cabbage chewing is a solid 65 decibels. Busy traffic is around 85. A lawnmower or a loud restaurant can hit about 90 decibels. Headphones at max volume can reach 100 to 110 decibels, and concerts or sirens can hit around 120 decibels. So we're regularly exposed to a wide range of sound levels without even realizing it. Here's the key takeaway. Sounds above 85 decibels, especially over long periods of time, can start to damage those tiny hair cells in your inner ear. And the tricky part is, the damage is usually permanent. You might not notice it right away, but over time it can lead to hearing loss or ringing in the ears, also known as tinnitus. That's why things like lowering your headphone volume, taking breaks from loud environments, or using ear protection at concerts can make a huge difference. So to wrap it up, your ears are constantly working behind the scenes, collecting sound, amplifying it, translating it, and even helping you stay balanced. It's an incredibly efficient system, but also a delicate one. So next time you're listening to music, walking through traffic, or even hearing something as random as Poppy chewing cabbage, just remember how much is happening in that moment. And maybe turn the volume down just a little. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jessiana. That was a great overview of the ear and what decibels are. So, why this episode? One topic we've been learning at school are levels of prevention. People most commonly associate healthcare as being the thing you seek when you are hurt or feel unwell. While that is true, those are actually secondary and tertiary levels of prevention. Primordial and primary preventions are things that we do to prevent illness or injury, like policies and guidelines and promoting healthy behaviors, or offer protection from illness, such as vaccinations. Check out episode 5 if you missed it. The Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety offer a helpful chart describing acceptable noise exposure limits. It emphasizes both level of noise in decibels and the duration of exposure matter when it comes to judging what is harmful to our ears. Listening to a sound measuring 85 decibels for a maximum of 8 hours a day is one example of these guidelines. The idea for this episode came about because working on the farm, in the hospital, or decompressing after a long day of studying can, well, be noisy. When I sat down one evening, after a particularly long day, I had quite a shock. There was a clock ticking in the living room that I had never heard before. I've sat in this living room for hours, but never actually heard it. And now that I could hear it, I couldn't unhear it. It was loud and obnoxious. This led me to think, if I've ignored that for so long, am I paying close enough attention to how loud my day-to-day activities are? It gave me pause for thought. Then I reached out to Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology at Resonance Hearing Clinic, for some answers. Okay, I'm here with Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Great. Thank you for joining us today on A Sound Constitution. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your role and practice as an audiologist?
Yeah, I started my career as an engineer and worked in the oil industry for a couple of years. And then I was yearning for something that was working more with people and with science. And so I found audiology, and it's been a wonderful career. I've been practicing for about 25 years now. And I started my career in public health. I worked on the BC Early Hearing Program. I saw children for the most part. And then about 17 years ago, I started a private practice. We've grown to 5 clinics now, and we see mainly an adult population, and we do everything from taking out cerumen or earwax to fitting hearing aids to counseling people on tinnitus.
Okay, excellent. So you've dealt with the youngest population and the elderly population, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be rewarding.
I've fit hearing aids on a child who's 2 months old.
Wow.
And a senior who was 103 years old.
Wow. I just think of little tiny instruments. That must have been quite interesting.
It's I think dealing with children, actually, young children is one of the most important jobs and responsibilities as an audiologist.
Right. So I'm just thinking about ear tests, and when would someone have an ear test? When's the first time you get tested?
You get tested right when you're born.
Okay.
In BC, if you're born in a hospital, or even at home actually, there's a program to screen babies for hearing problems. And assuming you pass that, then the next time is typically in kindergarten. And then typically people don't have significant hearing problems on average until they get into their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I'm in grade school and I've passed my hearing test. When would the next time be that I would need to be seen? Just if I have a problem, or?
Well, what we would recommend for people is to, number one, to protect their hearing. Right. So getting a pair of earplugs, there's many different kinds of earplugs, is kind of like getting a pair of sunglasses. And protecting your eyes, protecting your ears is a pretty good thing to do early on.
Sounds good. So if I need a checkup, if I have some concerns with my ear, what's involved with that?
Yeah. There are a bunch of forms that you would fill out before you came to see somebody like me. We want to find out about your ear health and your history and your medical history. And then when you come and see me, we would look in your ears. If there's any cerumen or earwax, we would take it out. And then we would do a number of tests of middle ear function, and we would put you in a booth, a sound booth, and you would press a button every time you heard a beep. And we would do a number of speech tests, and then we would come to a diagnosis of your hearing status.
Okay. I just want to pause and let listeners know, actually, Dr. Miranda and I are sitting in a sound booth right now. It's very quiet, and I actually feel quite comfortable. It's kind of nice to have no background noise.
It is amazing how much noise we're exposed to, and how stressful that is, especially in a city kind of situation. And if you've ever gone into nature and found a spot where there is no traffic noise, there is no people noise, and just listened, it's tremendously refreshing.
Yeah, it is. Now I understand what they mean about forest bathing and stuff. It's a different type of sound, or lack thereof.
Right. It's really hard to get no sound. This sound booth is specially constructed, and there still is a little tiny bit of sound. Really, some people would say that quiet is the absence of noise.
Right. You mentioned earlier about having earplugs. What's the best way to protect our ears?
I think the first thing is to be conscious of what is loud. And oftentimes we may not realize that a situation is loud. Right. And damaging and potentially damaging to our ears. So I think that's the first thing. And then when we are exposed to loud situations is to wear appropriate hearing protection.
I've read that 85 decibels or more for a prolonged period of time can cause damage. Do noise-canceling headphones or earbuds count as ear protection, or does it have to be something like headphones or earplugs?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, 85 decibels for 8 hours.
Okay.
And it depends on the decibel scale, but we don't need to get into that.
Okay.
On the A scale, dBA scale, 85 decibels for 8 hours will cause permanent damage. Then as you go up by 3 decibels, so 88 decibels, it only takes 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
And as you go up 91 decibels, it's only 2 hours. 94 decibels, only 1 hour, etc.
Okay.
So you can see as you get into very loud situations, it doesn't take much time before permanent damage.
Right.
Now, in terms of hearing protection, there's lots of different kinds of hearing protection. Everything from, the squishy ear, the $1 squishy earplugs, to headphones, to in-the-ear noise cancellation earbuds, to custom molded hearing protection.
Right.
So, in general, when it comes to earbuds or over-the-ear headphones, what you want is, number one, a physical seal against background noise. And then if you can get an additional kind of noise cancellation on top of that, you can then really reduce the noise floor. Because what's important when it comes to listening to music or a podcast is the signal-to-noise ratio. How much signal you have and how much noise you have. So the higher the noise, the higher the signal has to be. So if you can reduce the noise, then you can reduce the signal. And that signal level, the louder part of it, is what we measure in terms of how much sound is going to cause damage.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's basically about turning it down.
Yeah.
Turning the volume down.
Yes.
Because, people ask me sometimes, are headphones bad or earbuds bad for your hearing? The short answer to that is no, they're not. They're only bad if, one, they're too loud, and two, you're wearing them for too long. So if you wear earbuds for a long period of time at a low level, that's not going to cause damage to your ears.
Right. I guess the concern more would be just rumen buildup or whatever is happening because you have something in your ear. Is that correct?
Definitely. That is another issue that I see a lot of in my practice, is that people have most ears, by the way, are self-cleaning. Wax should be coming out of the ear on its own.
Right.
But some things can cause wax buildup. Right. And one of them is putting something into your ear, like an earbud.
Right. So I'm so excited to talk about sermon, but I have one other question about sound exposure. How long does it take the ear to recover from damage?
Well, usually, if somebody has been exposed to loud sounds over a long period of time, it does not recover.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. There is something called a 2-minute bounce. So if you are exposed to loud sounds and you've lost your hearing, that hearing will typically come back after a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But repeated exposure to that kind of thing will permanently damage the hearing.
Right. So I'm just thinking back to where you started in your career before coming to audiology, I suppose I should say, in the oil fields. That must have been, you must have been exposed to a lot of loud noises.
Well, no, I was a reservoir engineer.
Okay.
I was sitting behind a desk. It was a very boring, quiet job.
Oh, okay.
No offense to any reservoir engineers that are listening.
I don't know any, but yeah, okay, that's interesting. So I've heard another statement about nothing larger than your elbow is supposed to go in your ear. I think a lot of people probably don't follow that rule and they might do things. So what's the best way to care for your ear if you feel like there's something irritated or something going on in there?
Yeah, if you feel that there's something irritated or something going on, it depends on what the irritation is, of course. Let's just assume that you feel like your ear is plugged.
Right.
Okay. Well, you can try to get it out yourself. And what I would recommend for those people, assuming, of course, that their eardrums are intact, is to try an over-the-counter surmelodic. So, Murine is a good commercial example of this. It's a peroxide type solution that you put, some drops into your ear. You wait for a few minutes. It kind of helps to dissolve the wax, and then you flush it out with a little bulb syringe. In general, the difficulty that people have is that, well, first of all, I agree with the saying that nothing bigger than your elbow in your ear. Okay? Because Q-tips, I've seen all sorts of damage from people using Q-tips, and the most common thing is that people pound wax in, and it goes in deeper than it should be, and then it becomes more of a challenge to get out.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has seen the note on the Q-tip box that says do not put in your ears, and yet it's very tempting. But it sounds like it's counterproductive in the end. It's not actually getting...
Yeah. I mean, I see a fair number of people who've been using Q-tips successfully, and I tend not to argue with people who have been using Q-tips successfully for 50 years. But I've seen quite a few people who haven't used it successfully. And in general, actually, we want to see a thin coating of earwax in the outer 1/3 of the ear canal. It's an antibacterial, antifungal. Just let it do its job. Your ear isn't dirty, okay? Your ear is healthy if it has a little bit of wax.
Right, okay. Is there anything new and exciting coming up in the field of audiology right now? Any new technology or anything that you're super excited about?
Oh, I'm always super excited. Yeah, there's always super interesting things coming out. Unfortunately, our field doesn't focus on prevention as much as it does helping people with hearing loss. Okay. There's not a whole lot new in prevention. There's earplugs, but there's plenty of different kinds of earplugs. When it comes to rehabilitation of hearing loss, the stats show us that only 30% of people with hearing loss actually do anything about it.
Wow.
So the innovations are, how do we help more people with hearing loss? And, hearing instrumentation, of course, is evolving and becoming better and better. We are now using artificial intelligence we're harnessing the power of artificial intelligence to help people better, especially when it gets super noisy, okay? But one intervention that we're coming out with is hearing in the glasses. So they're actually called listening glasses. And there's microphones in the top of them, and then a little speaker that is shooting sound into the ear.
Wow.
Yeah, and they are not hearing aids. They are not going to be as good as hearing aids are if your hearing loss is significant enough, but they are certainly going to help people a little bit. And there's a lot of people with just a little bit of hearing loss, and they need a little bit of help.
Right.
And so glasses are the listening glasses are a really cool innovation to help people realize, hey, there is help for me.
Right.
And I don't have to go through hearing instruments because my problem isn't big enough for that.
Right.
And so I think that that's a really interesting avenue that sort of crosses the boundaries between optometry and audiology. And because my brother's an optometrist, I'm very involved with that side of things, and I really look forward to helping more people with just a little bit of loss.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the main complaints I hear from people in my life who have hearing aids is that it's just too loud. And it's almost like, something that's just a bit of an amplifier externally would be a different type of assistance for them, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people maybe aren't harnessing the power of the hearing instruments because it's how it's programmed for them.
Right.
That will determine their ultimate success.
Okay.
Yeah.
One fun fact I thought I would share with you before we close is this episode's called the Decibel Diaries because
Oh, cool.
I'm very interested. I thought, well, what is sound? What levels, I should say, are all the things that I'm hearing? And so I've been carrying my handy phone around with a little NIOSH meter on it, and I laughed because in class it's about 65, 70, and then when I laugh it goes up to 90. So I was joking to some of my friends that I could potentially cause ear damage if I'm around too long.
We'll have to keep you laughing for about 4 hours.
Yeah, well, that's good. I don't think I can sustain that, but it was quite funny. Good. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add or comment on today?
Yeah, I would challenge your listeners to do this. Go into a forest and go on a walk, or maybe even it's just on your back deck, and just close your eyes and listen and pay attention to all the sounds that are in your surroundings. And I think it'll be tremendously refreshing for you when you can hear nature and the birds, especially coming into spring here.
Right.
I think sound is to be enjoyed. And whether it's music or even nature or people's voices, I think there's a lot of pleasure that we get that we don't realize.
Right.
So I would leave your listeners with a note to value their hearing and protect it.
So in other words, stop and smell the roses, but also stop and listen to everything else.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it was a pleasure to talk with you today, and hopefully hear from you again soon.
You know when you hold a seashell up to your ear and it sounds like you can hear the ocean? I know we've all done it, especially when we were kids. Well, unfortunately, as it turns out, you're not actually hearing the ocean at all. What you are hearing is a mix of sounds from your environment, like air moving, and even sounds from your own body, like blood flow, being amplified inside the shell. Basically, the shell is acting like a little echo chamber, boosting all of those tiny sounds that are usually just too quiet to notice. Which is kind of wild because it shows just how sensitive our ears really are, even when things seem completely quiet.
You are listening to A Sound Constitution, a radio program by 7 third-year nursing students from Vancouver Island University. This show aims to demystify health topics and is broadcast here on CHLY 101.7 FM and heard on Spotify and YouTube. This episode is called The Decibel Diaries, an irresistible episode on auditory health. So far, we've gone over the anatomy and physiology of the ear, talked about decibels. We heard from Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology, and just now we had a fun fact about seashells from Jessiana. Now it's over to Becca.
Since we've been talking about ear health, I want to talk about something that affects pretty much all of us every single day: how we listen to sound. Whether it's music, podcasts, working out, or just being around noise, a lot of our daily habits can slowly affect our hearing without us even realizing it. The tricky part is, hearing damage doesn't usually hurt, it just builds up gradually over time. The good news is you don't have to stop doing any of the things you enjoy. It's really about being more aware and intentional with how you do them. So let's walk through the different listening options, types of hearing protection, and most importantly, how to actually use them in a way that protects your hearing long term. First, I'm going to talk about over-the-ear and on-ear headphones, the bigger ones that sit around or on top of your ears. A big advantage here is comfort and sound quality. Because they cover more of your ear, they can create a better listening experience without needing the volume super high. Many also come with noise-canceling features. That just means they can reduce the amount of background noise around you, like traffic or people talking, or even gym noise, so you don't feel the need to turn your volume up just to hear clearly. These are a really solid option for longer listening sessions like working, studying, or relaxing at home. Next are earbuds, which are probably the most common that people use day to day. They're small, portable, and easy to bring anywhere, which is why they're so popular. Because they sit in the ear, they actually block out some outside noise depending on the fit. That can be helpful, but it also means it's important to stay aware of how loud you're listening and for how long. This is where something really useful comes in: your phone. Most newer phones now can track your listening habits automatically. That can show you things like your average listening volume, how many hours a day you're using headphones, and whether you're listening at levels that are in a safe range. Some will even send you notifications if you've been listening at a higher volume or for extended periods of time. For example, you might get a weekly summary saying like, you've exceeded recommended listening levels for this week. And honestly, it's really valuable because most people underestimate how loud they're actually listening or for how long. So a really simple habit is just checking that data every once in a while, and if you notice your volume creeping up or your listening time is getting really high, that's your cue to dial it back a bit. You can also usually set limits on your phone, so typically it won't go above a certain volume, which is a really easy way to protect your hearing without having to think about it constantly. Then there are bone conduction headphones, which are a bit different. They sit on your cheekbones, and instead of going in your ears, they send sound through small vibrations. One of the things I personally like about these, as I use them while I'm running, is that I can still hear everything around me, so I can hear traffic, people, or anything going on nearby, which makes me feel a lot safer. They're a great option when you want to stay aware of your surroundings while still listening to something. Like any device, it still comes down to using a comfortable, moderate volume, but they're a really nice option for outdoor activities or physical exercise. So overall, over-the-ear headphones are great for comfort and immersive listening, while earbuds are convenient and easy to use anywhere. And bone conduction headphones are ideal when you want to stay aware of your surroundings. There's no best one, it's really about matching it to what you're doing and what works best for you personally. Now let's talk about hearing protection, because this is something people often overlook. Foam earplugs are the small ones you place in your ear. They're inexpensive, easy to carry, and are actually very effective when used correctly. But the key is using them properly. You want to roll them up and gently pull your ear upward to open the canal, and then hold the plug in place while it expands. If these are not inserted properly, they won't block out as much sound as they're supposed to. They're really useful for concerts, loud environments, studying in busy spaces, or even sleeping next to someone who snores. Over-ear protection, like earmuffs, cover the entire ear and are often used in environments with louder, continuous noise like construction, tools, or machinery. They're simple to use and provide consistent protection, especially when you know you'll be exposed to louder sounds for longer periods of time. So overall, it's not just what you use, but how you use it. One helpful guideline is the 60-60 rule, keeping your volume about 60% or lower and taking a break every 60 minutes or hour. Giving your ears time to reset is important, because hearing damage is related to both how loud the sound is and how long you're exposed to it. Another key thing is avoiding the instinct to turn up your volume in noisy environments. Instead, use something like noise-canceling headphones or a better-fitting earbud can help you hear clearly without increasing the volume. And this is where your phone tracking can easily support you. If you notice you're consistently listening at higher levels, that's your signal to adjust it before it becomes a long-term issue. It's also helpful to build simple habits like lowering your volume 1 or 2 steps when you notice it creeping up, taking short listening breaks throughout the day, and using hearing protection when you know you'll be around loud noise. These are small changes, but they add up over time. At the end of the day, protecting our hearing doesn't mean giving up anything. It's just about being more aware of your habits and making small adjustments where needed, because making those small choices now is what will help you keep enjoying music, podcasts, and everything else on a long-term basis.
Thanks, Becca. Those were some very helpful facts and tips about the different types of headphones. The reminder of the 60-60 rule was also great. Earlier in the episode, When Jessiana was introducing us to decibels, she gave us some examples of common noises and their levels. Now, it's time for the juicy bit of the Decibel Diary episode. Remember when we heard from Poppy at the beginning of this episode, as she ate her cabbage for breakfast? We're going to resume the story from there. I'm going to bring you along to sample an acoustic buffet of different sounds you likely hear in your day-to-day life, while taking note of their decibel levels. For this show, I record on my phone using an app called Road Reporter. I measure decibels with an app by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, otherwise known as NIOSH. I am by no means a professional at recording or measuring sounds, but I think you will find this segment interesting nevertheless. So, where were we? Oh, right. We had just fed Poppy. Some listeners may recall that I run a farm when I'm not at nursing school, which is why Poppy made her debut. After farming, one is usually messy. Let's walk into the house to get cleaned up. Walking on gravel on this windy day is 78 decibels. Once inside, I need a quick glass of water. Water from the fridge is 75 decibels. That's not so loud. It's now time for a quick trip to the bathroom. You, too, may start your day here to comb out your hair before going abroad. This is a bathroom fan, measuring 78.5 decibels. Now, I live on a farm, but not in a barn, so when I see hay on the floor, I need to vacuum it up immediately. That vacuuming, or hoovering, depending on where you're from, measures at 95 decibels. If you'll recall, Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology, noted that sounds above 85 decibels require ear protection if you're going to listen to them for longer periods of time. 94 decibels can be listened to for 1 hour before causing damage without ear protection, so we better not spend too much time vacuuming. Oh, happy day. Let's hop in the car and go to the grocery store. But before you cringe, no, I did not try to take recordings or measurings of decibels, either while driving or while walking down the grocery aisles. No, I did not. However, once I finished shopping for items, when I tried to put my grocery cart back to its storage area, it made such an irresistible sound I couldn't help myself. Will you listen to that? That is a whopping 101 decibels. I took 4 takes of that, and then had to make a hasty exit, as it was drawing attention, for reasons that are probably very obvious. Sounds alert us to information around us, like dangers or odd behaviors. Once back home, it was time to make something to eat. Yum! Making a snack from the frying pan is a sizzling 81 decibels, but even more tasty. After this brief pause for sustenance, it's time to go back to work. Today's task includes minor fence repair. That hammer is 96 decibels. So, again, it is advisable to wear hearing protection for this task, as those levels can lead to ear damage if listened to repetitively for less than an hour. Hopefully, after listening to those sounds and thinking about all the things you may hear during your day, you're starting to gain appreciation for everything that your ears do. On that note, I thought I'd talk to someone in my life who uses hearing aids to help them. Hi, Mom.
Hi, hon.
How's it going?
Sunshine.
How are you doing today?
Okay, thank you. I can hear you.
Oh, good. I was wondering, how long have you been using hearing aids?
I think it's approximately about 5 years. And then I ran into a really major change, which surprised me. I found that I was allergic to the first pair and had to go back and change them. And the second pair was really fine.
Good. What's your experience listening through them?
Oh boy. It's nice to be able to hear what's going on around me and to be able to exchange stuff with people. However, I found that I no longer hear normal voices. Your voice sounds different to me through a hearing aid. My husband's voice sounds different to me through a hearing aid, and I miss those normal factors. So
So
my
you
own
hear
voice sounds different too.
you hear Dad's voice, my voice, and your voice. They sound different to you.
All of it, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like, when I hear myself talk on the radio, I think that's not what I sound like. Is it similar to that
I
experience?
think it probably is very similar. That's a good comparison.
Okay. It's kind of shocking when you hear yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything else about your experience with using them?
It really does help me.
Okay.
I feel like I'm included more, like I understand what's going on around me a lot more. I don't miss as much of what's going on, but actually I would much rather hear normally, and those voices that have been familiar to me over the years. I really miss that.
Right. So how would you summarize how hearing aids impact your life then?
I think particularly allowing me to hear what's going on
Right.
and not missing nearly as much as I did before.
Right. Right. So, as you know, I've been working on this Decibel Diary episode, which has entailed, going around and recording different sounds and measuring the decibel levels. So I'm just wondering, are there any sounds that are particularly loud to you? Like, I know how I hear the vacuum, it's very loud, but I'm thinking in our day-to-day life, sometimes I'll be doing something and you're asking me what that noise was, and I think it sounded normal, but to you...
It would sound a lot louder.
Right.
Yes. And sometimes I can't discriminate what it's attached to.
Oh.
So I have to take a look around. And even when I'm talking with someone, I find myself watching the mouth and trying to form the words and pick up the rest of it. Because softer voices are really hard.
Right, so you lip read.
I lip read, yes. So make it clear when you're talking to me that you're really enunciating.
Yes, I have to admit I'm definitely guilty of mumbling, as you say, and I've heard a few other people say that it's helpful when someone enunciates their words.
It does. The other thing that's hard sometimes is you speak very quickly. And I'm there going, the speed zone got me. I missed the last half completely. So now I have to look you in the face like, could you say that again? And then you give me a look that says, oh my God, we're doing this again. But it's good, and patience is really necessary.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is we really need compassion on both sides.
Yes.
I don't really know what you hear, and you don't necessarily hear everything that I'm saying. So
Yes.
somewhere we got to find a middle ground.
Oh, that's right.
Good.
Yes. And I love being able to hear you, and I miss your voice very much. And there are times when I don't use my hearing aids and I sit closer, get close, and I can still hear that normal voice, which I love it very much.
Oh, wow. That gives us all pause for thought for sure about when we're interacting with someone with hearing aids. I'm guilty of getting annoyed when I have to repeat myself, but to think about the deeper meaning behind the sound,
Yes.
that'll definitely help me appreciate my hearing and protect it going
Yes,
forwards.
and I think one of the important things is to recognize that you have to take care of your hearing.
Yeah.
We hold phones, we have sounds, and over time, your hearing can be affected.
Right. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I gotta get
Oh,
back.
I love to chat with you.
I gotta get back to homework.
Take care. And when you talk to me, make it really clear.
Last but not least, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about earwax. We heard Terence Miranda mention cerumen or earwax earlier. But how is it formed? What does it do? Why do we have it? And what should we do about it? When we think about earwax, it's not uncommon to think, ew, gross. But what if I told you earwax is actually one of your body's smartest built-in defense systems? First, let's break down how earwax is formed. In your ear canal, the tunnel that goes from your ear opening to your eardrum, there are two types of glands that do most of the work to form cerumen or earwax. These glands are called the ceruminous glands and the sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are tiny glands attached to the hair follicles inside your ears. These glands secrete an oily substance called sebum that lubricates your skin, and it keeps your ears from drying out. These glands are found all over your body except for the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. The sebaceous glands are typically associated with hair follicles. The ceruminous glands are modified sweat glands. They create an oily substance that is fundamental to producing earwax. Just like the skin on other parts of your body, skin inside the ear canal sheds off. This becomes mixed together with hair, sweat from the sebaceous glands, and other debris from your environment, such as dirt. Finally, the ceruminous glands secrete a fluid that traps all this together, and it forms a waxy substance called cerumen or earwax. Get ready for a fun fact about earwax. Did you know there are two main types of earwax? Wet earwax and dry earwax. They are both equally effective in doing their job, and which type you have depends on your genetics. Specifically, it depends on whether you have the dominant or recessive variant of the ABCC11 gene. This small change in your genes will determine how much fat is released by your ceruminous glands and contributes to either having more dry, flaky earwax, which is dry earwax, or a more sticky and gooey earwax, which is wet earwax. Dry earwax is less common and is typically gray or tan colored. Wet earwax is more common and is typically yellow or brown colored. Now that I've sufficiently grossed you out, let's talk about what earwax does for us and why we have it. Lots of people may think of earwax as dirty or a nuisance, but it's actually essential to keeping your ears healthy. Earwax serves many purposes. For example, it provides protection. It acts like a barrier, trapping dirt, dust, and even small insects before they can reach the delicate parts of your ear. It acts as an antimicrobial defense mechanism. Earwax releases substances such as proteins that have antibacterial and antifungal properties. This helps to prevent infections in the ear canal. It provides lubrication of the ear canal. Earwax moisturizes your ears, keeping them from drying out and becoming itchy or cracked. It creates water resistance. Earwax creates a waterproof lining for your ear canal to help repel water, which reduces the risks of conditions such as swimmer's ear. So, why do we have it? From an evolutionary standpoint, earwax likely developed as a protective mechanism. Your ears are valuable, but they're also vulnerable. They're open to the outside world, but lead to delicate structures responsible for both hearing and balance. Earwax helps to protect these structures without you even having to think about it. So, the next time you see that you have earwax, don't be grossed out, but thank your ears for having your back. Finally, what to do about earwax. The best thing about this is that often you don't have to do much. Your ears are self-cleaning. As new skin cells form and grow from the center of your ear canal, they push the older skin cells forward towards the opening of the ear like a conveyor belt. Each day, the older skin cells move towards the opening of the ears and takes the old earwax with it until the earwax eventually falls out of your ear. Everyday movements, such as talking, chewing, and yawning, also contribute to slowly push the earwax outwards. Earwax is normally produced only in the outer half of the ear canal. It typically won't cause a blockage unless it is pushed in. The ear canal may become blocked or impacted when you try to clean the ear with cotton swabs, bobby pins, or your finger. This may push wax deeply into the ear canal. Impacted wax may block the eardrum and cause some temporary hearing loss. It can also cause some other problems, such as a ringing in the ears, which is called tinnitus, and uncomfortable pressure in the ears, or vertigo, which is a specific type of dizziness characterized by a false sensation of spinning, swaying, or moving. Poking at the wax with cotton swabs, your fingers, or other objects usually just further presses the wax against the eardrum. Most earwax problems can be handled with home treatment. Professional help may be needed to remove tightly packed earwax. Don't try to remove earwax if you have ear pain or a discharge that looks different from your normal earwax. If you think you have a ruptured eardrum, if you have had ear surgery, or if you have tubes in your ears. You may be able to remove earwax yourself, and here is how. First, we would like to try and soften and loosen the earwax. Use warm mineral oil or a mixture of hydrogen peroxide mixed with an equal amount of room temperature water. Place 2 drops of the fluid, warm to the body temperature, in the ear twice a day for up to 5 days. Be sure to warm the fluid to body temperature because cold fluid can cause pain and dizziness. Next, let's try to remove the earwax. When the wax is loose and soft, all that's usually needed to remove it from the ear canal is a gentle, warm shower. In the shower, let water flow into your ear, then tip your head to the side to let the earwax and the water drain out. Afterwards, to dry your ear, use a towel to gently pat your ear to dry it. Protect your ears. Don't use cotton swabs, bobby pins, or other objects to clean deep in the ear canal. Don't use high-pressure water devices, such as a dental irrigation device like a water pick, to remove earwax. The force of the water can injure the ear canal and it can rupture the eardrum. Do not use ear candles. They have no proven benefit in the removal of earwax, and they can cause serious injury. So remember, when it comes to ear care, gentle, simple cleaning is the safest. Your ears have its own cleaning crew on board.
Thanks, Ethan. That was a nice summary of earwax, and how it really isn't something to be ashamed of at all. Sadly, this brings us to the end of our show. We hope you found everything we've talked about interesting, and that your curiosity for paying attention to the sounds in your life has increased. I hope you do take on the challenge that Terence Miranda, Doctor of Audiology, gave us. Take some time away from your earbuds, phones, and other distractions, and find a quiet place, such as a back deck or local forest. Close your eyes and listen. Protection of our ears starts with appreciation for all that they allow us to experience.
Have you heard the expression, you are what you eat? Next week on A Sound Constitution, CHLY 101.7 FM, we're demystifying nutrition, what your body really needs, and what trends are not worth your time. From understanding macronutrients and how they fuel your body, to separating fact from fiction when it comes to GMOs and fad diets. We'll sit down with a registered dietitian to talk about how you can incorporate strategies to eat healthier and break down the differences in the Canadian Food Guide compared to our neighbors in the South. Additionally, we're taking a closer look at a concerning trend, the rise of colorectal cancer in people under 50. Catch us on Thursdays from 2 to 3 p.m. or visit us on our YouTube and Spotify.
Check out our show notes from today's episode on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Spotify at A Sound Constitution, CHLY 101.7 FM. You'll be able to find references and more information about today's show, read more about our commitment to truth and reconciliation, or follow along with what's coming up next this season. We want to remind our listeners that the information presented in this show is for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. If you've missed parts of this episode and would like to replay it, or listen to past episodes, check out our YouTube or our Spotify at A Sound Constitution. We look forward to connecting with you all next week.